when you put those coordinates in, you find the exact spot of the building we found right there. So, out of all of the Russian Arctic islands, I don't know if there's any with as much history as Novaya Zemlya. This isn't actually just one island, it's actually split into two around 2/3 of the way down. This point is called Yuzhny Island, and this point is Severny Island. First of all, this island just looks weird. It protrudes straight north and south and is already really far north. Second of all, a lot of interesting things have happened here, including the Tsar Bomba test, which is around this area on the south part of Severny Island. But I wanted to find out if there was anything going on this northern tip of the island. So I switched over to Apple Maps because it shows you a lot better resolution when you're super zoomed in. And I just started scanning the coast to see what I could find. One of the first few things that caught my eyes were this weird island, which is apparently called the Greater Orange Islands, and this is the eastern one. And there's this weird thing on the bottom of it. When I zoomed in, I was like, why are there hundreds, if not thousands, of these little circles that are just kind of protruding into the sea? Then I realized this is probably walruses or seals because it is very common in this area. And there's actually a few other spots where you can see this. I also started scanning the northeast coast, and when I came over to this little peninsula, I found that there were buildings up here and a lot of stuff apparently going on. This looks like some sort of weather station. If you go north a little bit, you can see hundreds of barrels, pipes going everywhere. Coming in this direction, you have what seems to be a lighthouse or a tower of some kind by its shadow. Coming south of this structure, there's more little buildings. There's random patches where there's all these barrels or something. And then coming over here, there's this weird structure with four circles on the outside and a little building on the middle. This peninsula is called Cape Zelenia. Sorry if I mispronounced that. These are those four buildings that are close to each other. Here's some of the barrels to the side. And if you zoom in, you can actually even see what look to be polar bears that are just chilling in the area. And here's that other structure that's on the cape that has that shadow. During the Cold War, this was kind of a secret station that had a lot of interesting tests ran around this area. But since 2005, this has been a mostly automatic weather station. Anyways, the thing that I thought was really interesting about this place was when I was scanning the coast and I came over to this area. When you're zoomed out, you can barely even see the coast, but when you zoom in, it starts to become a little more clear. And I found this weird box. When I first saw this, I had no idea what I was looking at. Was this just driftwood that had washed up ashore enough and just perfectly landed in some box? Or was this something else? So just by looking at it, it looks like it does have some height to it. You can see none of these other logs have a significant shadow, but this one's shadow protrudes pretty far. Also, if you come over here to the west, you could see that there's this that also has a shadow. And I wasn't sure what this was either. Maybe it's a cross of some sort, or they stacked wood on top of each other. Who knows? There also doesn't seem to be anything else remotely close to this area that's man made. Everything else in this entire shoreline is just a bunch of driftwood. There's nothing else that's been developed around this area. There's no weather stations around here except the one I mentioned before. It's just a completely uninhabited, remote part of the Arctic tundra. Now, to find what this structure is, we got to go back to the 1590s. In present day Netherlands, there was an explorer named William Barents, and what he wanted to do was find an easier shipping route to get boats from Europe to China. But the problem is, we didn't know what the Earth looked like exactly. Contrary to popular belief, we did know that the Earth was a globe, but we didn't know what really happened in this northern bit of the Arctic Ocean. So, what he wanted to do was find a shipping route that went straight north and that cut over here and somehow made it so you could go to China. But it wasn't going to be that simple. He had three expeditions. The first two failed completely. So, on the third one, he really thought he had a shot. He sailed up north from Amsterdam and he got up to this point. He actually discovered a few of these islands in present day Svalbard, but he decided to go all in and go east and see what he could find. So he ended up finding this island, Novaya Zemlya, and he kind of went above the northern coast of it. But the problem was, it is very cold what Google Maps does not show is this area is full of ice, summer and winter. So he came around the northern tip of the island, and eventually him and his crew got completely stuck in this area, and they had to winter on this little tiny, remote, uninhabited peninsula where there's almost no plant life and hardly anything to help you survive. His crew spent the winter there, and they brought parts of their boat in to create a little shelter. They hunted for Arctic foxes and they ate what remaining supplies they have. Eventually, a lot of them succumbed to scurvy, and William Barents did end up not making it, but some of his crew did. Anyways, we don't know what ended up happening to the body of William Barents, if it was buried in the area or if it was buried at sea. So that's where a lot of the mystery comes today. So, coming back to our little structure near the area, I thought maybe this is some weird part of that expedition. It's somewhat close to where that happened. I mean, it's just on the other side of this island. Or maybe this is some other person who's stranded here and needs help. So I had to do a lot of digging to end up finding out what this was. After a lot of Google searching on all of the capes in the area and putting in coordinates, I eventually found this Russian website for the Russian Arctic National Park. And they actually have a lot of coordinates of random stuff on the top of Severny Island, which is pretty cool. So I started clicking through some of these, and the first one that popped up is the ruins of the wintering place of William Barents. So let's check it out. So this is not our structure, but this is what still remains of where William Barents and the crew spent the winter. Now there was a big structure here, but this is what it looks like today. And I kept going down and clicking on every single one to see if any of them fit. And some of them looked really close. When I clicked on this one, I thought, oh, yes, this had to be it. A little square hut right by the water. It's a fishing camp. Okay, that makes sense. I put in the coordinates and not quite. It's pretty close, but it's not in the right area. Let's zoom in to see what that one looks like. You can actually see it. That is somewhat similar to the one that we found, but not quite. So let's keep looking. I also found this one, remains of a commercial house, Kolosov's hut. And I put in the coordinates for this one because you have that square building right by the water and also not in the right area. And when we zoom in, we see that, yeah, it actually looks very similar to our other structure. So we're getting really close. Eventually, I came across this, remains of the camp of the Russian-Dutch expedition to search for the grave of William Barents. So I saw this, oh my gosh, a little square structure with wood around it. This has to be it. And lo and behold, when you put those coordinates in, you find the exact spot of the building we found, right there. So this is what we're looking at, a 1995 built hut that was part of an expedition to find the grave of William Barents. So there's the wood that's right in front of it, there's some ropes, and there's the little square hut, although it doesn't look that fun to stay in right now. Also, when editing this video, I found this picture from a 1995 expedition where they were looking for the gravesite, and it does appear in the top right of this photo that that is the building and the little pole that we're seeing. So this might be the actual picture from the 1995 expedition. Also, that other structure that looked like a cross of some sort, that's a little tetrahedral structure. Not exactly sure what it's for, but the Russian translation on the website says triangulation sign swell. So if anyone knows what this is, let me know. So there it is. It's a little hut for an expedition to find the grave of William Barents, and it's not someone's shipwrecked hut, and they're not still currently there, so that's good. But if you ever do find yourself in this random part of Novaya Zemlia, then I guess you have a little hut you can go hang out at. Anyways, thanks for watching. If you liked this video, you'll probably like this video in the bottom left corner. I also read and respond to almost every single comment in the comment section, so thanks for watching.